Welcome back, subscribers. I'm going to talk about the Olympics, the closing ceremony specifically, and this is going to be just some of the symbology and stuff that I had picked up on it, and some of the commentary that I had heard. I've known and done a couple of videos where I talked about that the Olympics is used as a ritualistic the ceremony actually the entire 2 weeks is a big giant worldwide ritual. And when I use the word ritual, it usually triggers a lot of people, and it's like, well, just so you know, you're doing rituals every single day, but you look at it as routine, which actually has the same it has some similar energy behind it as far as the word goes. They've just basically kind of demonized the word ritual. um, I said, like, the you every morning you do exactly the same thing over and over and over again. And sometimes you play games. Well, I have to leave the house by 7 o'clock because I have to go to such and such traffic, and I do this. Even something like that is technically it's a ritual that you're adjusting yourself to your environment. That's the If I was boiling it down, that's basically what it is. And the reason why you do that is because you know what the ramifications are if you don't follow through with the element. So the exercise, if you will. If I don't lift weights, do resistance training, cardio, whatever, and stay active, my body goes to shit, and I just turn into a potato, just a slob. Um, so what do? You go through the exercises. It's ritualized. When you're done with your exercise, you end up I don't know. You have like a protein shake, something exactly the same. You're putting the exact same amounts in it. Da 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 da. Like I said, it's work environment. It's again, it's on the spiritual side. Like everybody's like, well, I have to go to church, and if and for somebody like myself that grew up as a Catholic, the whole thing, the whole Sunday is a ritual. Everything is exactly like you could set your watch from like, uh, the first two readings to the gospel to the homily to the whole thing, and then goes into the 30 minutes is in uh, you know blood drinking and flesh eating. It's when you look at it from that perspective, then and it's the consistency every single week. It's the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's a ritual. That's what you're doing. And for some people, if they on the surface level, it makes people feel good, that they went to church, they did their thing. But the roots behind it, it has there are heavy layers of what we would consider pagan elements that are involved in this, and they people don't look at it, and they're like, well, no, it's canonized by the Catholic Church or whatever your church is, and it makes it okay because they're all for Jesus. And be like, oh, okay, but these elements of consistencies are part of this of these rituals. So back to the this has got nothing to do with religion. This is about the elements that are inside the ceremonies that happen with the games. Okay, and the games originally were like an element to like satisfy the gods, the celebration. It's Greek. Uh, it's to show like human, play. Like look at what we can do, what your product is, because they were under the rulership, and that's also the original energy behind the Olympic Games was basically a sacrifice back to their pantheon of gods. And it's the same thing. They're still doing the same thing, and whether or not they promote it, it still has the same relative energy. It's like if you wanted it to be different, okay, and not be associated to the original, what the original was associated with, then why don't you start something new? So if you're using the old, well, people know it, and be like, well, if something is not being used anymore and it's doesn't serve the population anymore, then you would do something different. You would get rid of it. Like the church using all the esoteric elements, the obelisk in St. Peter's Square, and so on. There's all kinds of things. You're like, well, why do you have that? If we don't think like you think, you're going to kill us, you know? Be like, well, we can do whatever we want, but we're going to use we're going to use the Greek statues, and we're going to make sure that the painters that we do use in a Renaissance to explode growth and creativity inside the world. We're going to have them do renditions of artwork that have uh, ancient origins. Like they're commissioning these artists to make things. They're paying the artists to make things. So they could have made it, since they have a new religion and a new directive. Then why didn't they just commission new artwork that was not associated with carvings of old pantheonic gods? Just asking a question. Like, why wouldn't you do that? You know? So this association to the old is because it never went away. We already know this internally. It's just I put that question out there, maybe that it like triggers something in you, like, oh my gosh, yeah, I guess I never really thought of it that way. But because it never went away, all they did was rebrand it. You know, that's all that's really happened. So inside the games, they do the opening ceremony and the closing ceremonies, and you could look this up. Like if you put in whatever any of the years, Summer Olympics, Winter Olympics, it used to be when I was a kid that they would have the my sister and I were really big into watching this. We loved it. Like where we were, we didn't have cable TV, so when the Olympics would roll around, which was really 4 years, every 4 years for both, they'd have the Summer and the Winter Olympics the same year, and then they switched it up. I don't remember when it had happened. Now it's like it's a cycle of every two, basically. That we loved it, and especially love the winter games because you get to see things that you normally don't get to see. You know, like bobsledding and luging and we saw plenty of curling because we live so close to Canada. They televise it, and it was just like this really, I mean, anyway. But what they do is they would showcase the local fair, like whatever's in the culture of the local, and then they would have elements of that in the ceremony itself, so that you'd say like, oh hey, you're in whatever Sarajevo, and this is the way that our culture is, and this is how we dance, and that's really what it would be. And I don't know when it happened. Probably somebody could, I imagine, has done the research on this of whenever the transition point happened, where they started really using it as a ritualistic element on the world stage to be identifying to the public. And it's possible it's always been there. It probably is that they had it just wasn't as over the top as what they're doing now. Or people just didn't really understand the symbology as well as they do now. There's a lot more that's permeating our society that you can find, that you find that this esotericism is just absolutely baked in the cake everywhere you look. So I didn't see the opening ceremony, but all I did was just like a couple of days later, I just put in, whatever, Luciferian, pagan, whatever, after, 2026 Winter Olympics, opening ceremony, pagan, you can put in whatever you want. You just see all these videos and stuff come up, and people that pointing out, and like, I would say some of it is cherry picking, some of it's a stretch, but I watched the closing ceremonies just because it was on, because it was right after the hockey game. So I watched the hockey game and did a video. I did a YouTube live, talked about the hockey game and the esoteric elements that are inside the hockey game in Canada, merging in the United States. So I left it on, and so it's playing, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll just watch this and just see how these psychos, what they have planned for us, and what's the symbology. So I wasn't like intently watching it, but just, see if I could just pick up elements before some other decoder pulls it apart, and see if I can that's kind of what I do. It's like kind of an interest of mine. See if I can pick it up with my pretty extensive knowledge of symbology and what it's telling me. So early on, and I can't find the video. I put it on here, but I can't find the video. Again, they're hiding it, but if somebody saved the video, I can't seem to find it on YouTube. But it's Johnny Weir and Tara Lipinski are doing the figure skaters. They're doing the commentary, and they're kind of doing a walkthrough. Like if you watch the parades or something, and they'll tell you like, oh, this signifies such and such, and da, 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 da. And they'll tell you like, oh, this is wherever the cherub comes in and does this, and the angels are doing that, right? And they'll tell you basically a play by play of how it works. And there's a part of it, and this is in the beginning of it. The athletes are walking in and doing their thing and waving their flags, and they all sit down, and then they start the show. And there's a point where it's in the beginning, and Johnny Weir says, this this is the siren of Dante's comedy. Okay. And he doesn't say like he doesn't use inferno. He doesn't say you know, uh, the divine comedy makes it sound as though it's beautiful, but it's like, well, most people don't know really what that is, and be like, well, that's I did a video on Unum Sanctum and how, Dante in the book, the Divine Comedy, he basically lays out what hell is. You're like, well, this is, it's a non-canonized book, but the church, I'm going to put this stuff out there. And back then the church controlled 100% of everything. So it was a way for like the church to subcategorically have another energy, another person out there doing kind of their bidding and saying like, okay, we're just going to go ahead and let this be published and so people get an idea of what hell is. We're going to create it. So anyway, he makes reference to it, and he said, this is the siren of, Dante. And you can look that up, the siren of Dante's Divine Comedy, and read what that means. So I'm like, I already knew what it meant, and I'm like kind of like brushing up on it. I'm like, okay, yeah. So what are they showing? Oh, and then they show these dancers. They're rising up. They're being lifted up, and there's mountains in the background, and signifying like ascension, right? They're ascending away from the acts of lust and earthly pleasures. Like that's what this siren signifies. And I like, oh my gosh. I was like, well, yeah, we already know what's going to be happening to the financial system. So, they're basically telling you that you're going to have less of the indulgences, and that whenever you're applauding and cheering these things on and how beautiful it is and how great, that opens a contract, a spiritual contract inside this energetic field that we're in, that allows the energy to come in. So they're telling you like the administration of the planet is moving in towards a blockchain digital world where we're going to be tracking and tracing everything that you're going to be doing, and that all of these what they would consider like lustful or fruit how would it be um like worldly pleasures of being like a free human and having things at your disposal, and whatever it is, like that's like I would say like the Western world, if you will, the Western world of having everything, and the other parts of the world not having things, that they want to try to, like, they're going to smooth this all out ultimately, and they're going to do it through business administration. They're not going to come down totalitarian. It's going to be a systematic approach that's going to happen from the top down, but it's not going to be from the governments. The governments are handing the ball off to major businesses, and the businesses are going to be following this new rule, that this new like rulership essentially that's happening, and it's going to spread out the ability to prosper. But there are still going to be places to prosper. Like, this isn't some doom and gloom video. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to be, a slob American and go on 16 different trips and whatever. Drive my gas guzzling SUV, and they're going to take that away from me. No, you can still do those things. You're just going to have to play by the new rules. But they're not telling you that. That's just like they tell every time there's a rule change. They don't ever tell people that that's what happens. So, um, so anyway, back to the Olympics. So that that's essentially what the energy is behind this. Like, okay, here's this, when Dante sees this angel, she's beautiful, and he becomes like kind of enchanted by her, but then he realizes like, well, this isn't really the right way to be doing it. I'm going to be separating away from this entity and being, and then I'm going to be ascending towards a more a divine right, which is closer to God, right? And that's what they were showing. I mean, he even said it. but he didn't say it in that like that context. He just was like, "Oh, this is this person." And I was like, "Okay, what else is in here?" And then the whole scene is showing it's an eye, it's an eyebrow. The back of the scene of the stage is an eyebrow or a lid, an eyelid, and then everything is very like all seeing eye, like the eye of Horus. Which again, like for me, it's like it's not shocking to me because I've seen all these things before. It's not like it's paying the version that everybody talks about is like this is as if they're not in it knee deep and they're paying attention. I'm talking about like like normal people. Whenever they come to the awareness that there are these what they would consider pagan or Luciferian elements that are inside of these ceremonies, that it's it's of the devil, that they just cast away and be like, well, no, like the people that are hardcore Bible beating Christians, that they're using this. You're already in that system anyway. Your money system, um, the belief systems are all part of this as well. As soon as they commandeered the JC story, it went they twisted it so it isn't the divine version. All right, they control all of that. All right, so you're doing rituals and things behind on your Sundays that are of pagan origins. Absolutely. So if you're continuing to keep doing those things, you're charging the old energy. We're like, well, we'll just call it something different, but you're going to keep doing the same shit. We're going to do effigies. We're going to make it's wine, but we're going to make it blood. We're going to make this, cracker wafer is going to be flesh, but it says in the Bible, and be like, I'm just saying that these are the same elements that are at the end of the day, when you boil it down, you're drinking blood and you're eating flesh, period. And that's a symbolic ritual that is done. And it was done before the start of Christianity. So they didn't invert it. They kept it the same, but then they told you it was for something different. It's really twisted. And when you really if you can step back, because again, if you try to tell somebody this that is inside of a heavy belief environment, I tell people, I'm like, hey, just be careful, because if you don't have anything to replace it, you have to have a belief system in place for humans in general. If you don't have the beliefs, then it's not a good environment. So these rulers that have been doing this, whether it's the church or governments or whatever, it's going to be nationalism and you believe in the government, the flag, or whatever else, that um, that they have to have something to get behind. The people have to get into some kind of a belief that gets them to want to get up every day and go to work. That's what it is. Period. So if they don't have that, like John Lennon, Imagine, that song. If you read the lyrics in the song, that can't take off. Okay. We can't have this drop out, tune out crap. We have to have a functioning society, and everybody does their little job and goes to work and pays their bills and their taxes and so on and so on. So we have to have this system, and that system is a belief, and they end up, installing fear that's involved, that's piggybacked on top of it to, get everybody to get up every day to go to work. It's, but unfortunately, once you get past that and you realize I've seen this in business, that I've had many, many businesses that I want everybody to be able to be, independent and do their own thing. But many of the people that have worked for me, they're not capable of that, that they need something to believe in. They have to have that belief. And if you take the belief away, um, it's chaos. It's absolute chaos. So it's not the best system, but it's worked. And now the new one that's going to come in is AI. AI will be the new savior, and people don't know that yet. There's a lot of very interesting esoteric elements that roll into AI as well, and numerology. So it's in the future, it's going to be probably this year. You're going to see a even greater surge than what we've seen over the past what has been like 3 years since it's been out. So the population will be absolutely enamored by it, to the point where it will be their own. I think it started like the worship with the phones. We're seeing like how everybody's just buried in their phones and they can't live without it. So again, it's like it's the belief. Like they believe that this device has got some kind of window to the world that's going to give them information. But ultimately, real entrepreneurs and people that are successful, you just do it on your own. You don't need any of that crap. You don't need it. You need to kind of have an idea what's going on. You can't put your head underneath a rock, but you have to know what's going on. So yeah, closing ceremony, and then it's called like the water. You can look this up. What I did find on YouTube was like it's the I think it's there were some water elements. Like there's a digitation visual where let's see, 2026. There's a digitation visual where it appears like that water is like pouring over the land. You should watch it. It's only like 7 minutes long. Okay, so the other thing I as I'm looking at this, it's called the water. It has a name. Let's see. Closing ceremonies. What time is it? Performers live. I think I can just look at it this way. So yeah, they have highlights. It's called the water cycle performance. All right. And water is washes away the old and brings in the new, right? It's this regeneration. So there's a lot of esoteric elements to it. And it's like 8 minutes. And you can watch that, but just think about the IOC, the Olympic Committee, is doing the bidding of like the world order elements that are trying to identify to the population that um, they're creating this new system of business and commerce, and it's going to wash over the land and get rid of all of the nefarious activities and things that have happened in the past, and we're going to get rid of the old and we're going to bring in the new with the freshness, with the cleansing of the water. That's what it identifies to me. The other thing is that it's in Verona, Italy, and when it first started, I was like, Verona, like why is it in Verona? Like, where is this? And I looked up. It's kind of like their own Coliseum, and it's called Verona Arena, and it's east of Milan, and it's closer to Venice. Verona. I just misspelled it. I had a window open in it arena. Yeah, it was an amphitheater. It's basically like what you see the amphitheater like. It's just a lot. It's smaller than the one that's in Rome. Um, and it was built in the first century, 30 A.D. So anyway, I thought it was interesting. I was like, why are they there? I was like, oh, there's got to be some kind of like energetic significance to that territory and a story that's behind it. There has to be. So again, it's what is the original roots of it? What is the folklore? What is the representation locally? Let the locals know about it and what energy that it has behind it. And then we're not going to tell you about any of that. We're just going to go ahead and run the ritual, and we're going to have it at this location. But we're not going to tell you about what its original origins are. Uh, let's see, arena. So the primary folklore surrounding the Verona Arena is a medieval legend attributing to the construction to pact with the devil made by condemning a condemned nobleman. You like that? You can't make that up. So basically, the pact sentenced a man to death to build a massive venue in one night to save his life, soliciting help from the devil in exchange for his soul. And I'm like, oh, so we're just gonna, oh, but it's just a story. And be like, but that's what it represents. If it's just a story, then it wouldn't still be available today to reflect on it. Like if you ask the locals, this is what happens in Europe, why the Europeans know about the United States and know about our real administrative like freedoms, or what our the storyline that we've been walked into. that we believe that we're like a sovereign nation. But if you talk to anybody from Europe, they know that it's bullshit because they've already been through all that. And they they're just shocked that the people believe that they have the open door freedoms that has been kind of like pumped into us, you know, that they're like above it, that you guys don't really own anything. You can own your houses, but everything else, you got to pay the government. Like you don't really own any of that land. There's no title ownership to your government to that land. That land is beneficial owner. The beneficial owner of this land is still the king. Like they don't. No, we have a constitution. No, you have had the right to be able to administer your own rules and laws because your business scaled to the point where the crown doesn't want to deal with it anymore. The crown's like, well, hey, just give us a cut. You guys can go ahead and manage yourselves and we'll just walk forward. So these are some of the things that we talk about on our private site that I do. And I cover the histories of how this all happened and played out. But if you tell people you're free, you're free, you're free, you're free, and it again, it's a ritualistic, it's training, it's an entrainment to tell you that you are, then you are. Just like that. You believe it. If you believe in it, that you are free, relative to what? Iran? Sure. But total bare freedom where you can just do whatever you want, be like, no, everywhere I look, there aren't these elements. I'm going off on a tangent. I'm not going to talk about it anymore about that because that's not what this is. It's about the Olympics and Verona. Back to Verona. To save his life, the man promised the city a grand theater, but overwhelmed by the demonic work, he repented, prompting the Virgin Mary to send an angel to toll morning bells early, causing the demons to flee and leaving the arena's outer wing forever unfinished. And I'm like, that's pretty interesting. Well, why didn't they say that? Like, it's an interesting story. And again, it's local to where these, this event's, it's right in Verona. That's a pretty interesting story. And it still has weight today because you can still read about it. And this is a story that's 2,000 years old. So there must be some kind of meat on that bone because demons and devils are hell built the structure at incredible speed. Yeah, the demonic construction. So that's just it. So okay, so the folklore is it was built by demons and the devil, the structure. So now what do we have? What the symbology is like that's the story that nobody knows, and then you're going in there voluntarily and you're celebrating and applauding. And we're going to put on this show that has all these esoteric elements in it that are telling you and identifying you that, hey, behind the scenes, we're changing your future and you guys are going to be all into it. You're totally into it because you're applauding and you're happy. So we're going to go ahead and march forward. And be like, well, that didn't say that in the playbill. Be like, well, no, but that's how it works. Because if the administration came out and told you what they're going to do, period, that would be totalitarian, and the people revolt. And they know this. They've known this for thousands of years, is that whenever the administrations want to change something, they do it to get you to want it. They want you to applaud and be like, yes, that's fantastic. Even knowing that they're assuming, just like a lawyer, this is where law comes from. That the law, the rules of magic, you understand of how manifestation works. You understand that you're charging an environment inside of a demonic place. Okay, let's say, for example, it's Epstein Island. Be like, how about that? Let's say, like, okay, in 1,000 years, they have games on the island, and they're using the same building that all this stuff happens. Like, what happens if there's I don't know, a murder in the town, like a really heinous murder? They'll like burn the house down, like nobody, like that's got bad juju. You ever heard that? Be like, it's the same thing with the Olympics. Like that building has really bad juju, and be like, well, we're going to cleanse it with purity. Be like, no, actually what you're doing is you're empowering and you're charging it even more by going into an environment that has bad juju. And then you're doing ritualistic elements that have symbology that is not of love and light, okay? And all that does is it charges the environment that tells basically the administration of how this place is running that, okay, they're all cool with it. We're going to go ahead and march forward because They paid for tickets. This is worldwide known. We're using the world as a stage, and a world as a harvesting mechanism for this energy, and everybody's behind it. Fantastic. We're just telling you what we're gonna do, and that's the opening of the contract. So whenever things move into that direction, and you give up those elements, you're like, well, we didn't. What do people say? They're like, we didn't consent to this. And be like, well, the administration is like, well, yes, you did. This doesn't violate anything because we've already told you that this is what's going to happen. And because remember that ceremony that you guys went to all those years ago? Yeah. And you were applauding, you're all happy. Well, this is what all the symbols mean. Oh, and you were doing it in this house of demons. Be like, what? Welcome to Earth. So I'd say like what you can do is you say like, oh, this is crazy. This is nuts. Read into it. You're going to have to do, I've got so many years in trying to debunk this and finding that when you get to a certain level with it, you find out that this is essentially what all the secret societies have always known, and that they've been behind the scenes, like kind of battling what you would consider church, but imperial authority is the way I would look at that. And what they do is they basically try to manipulate to be able to. They're playing a game, a chess match between imperial authority on the business in the business world, and now they have a situation where it's essentially like a checkmate type of situation where they're like, okay, we're going to go ahead and move in with this ESG blockchain technology, and it's all going to be ruled and run by businesses and the nation states, which are under the rulership thumb of Rome, are going to be like subservient to us. Okay, we're going to run it our way because as history runs, and you can see this stuff on the site, is that business is always better at going with the trends and staying with the times than having totalitarian, imperialistic authority. That just doesn't work very well. So, but you're never going to notice it. But if you understand the rules and the language, you can keep yourself out of harm's way, not put yourself into an environment where your consciousness is being burned by not understanding of what's going on, and positioning yourself so that you don't have to take the brunt of this, because this is going to be so heavy moving forward that it's going to crush a lot of people. Like, all belief systems are being extinguished, and because they're going to be showing that they were stories from the beginning. It was all made up in order to keep everybody going. But how they do that, I said, I don't know. It's just stay nimble, be flexible, keep, exercise your neuroplasticity in your mind, because no matter how much, the only thing that you can believe for sure or know, don't say belief, say no. What do you know? Your family, maybe like how to take care of your body and what it needs. If I do XYZ, that I can provide for my family, and these things happen. If those rules change, I need to learn the rules so that I can keep doing those things that I did before. And that's what we talk about behind the scenes. So it's an environment for like-minded individuals that are that understand the decoding and are trying to learn the new rules moving forward. Because if you can learn these rules before they're rolled out and prepare yourself, that you're not going to be setting yourself for a situation in the future that's going to end up costing you a lot of money, and that you're hanging onto a belief system that is being extinguished every single day. And to hang on to it, there's so much energy behind this, that on the business side, you can keep doing your own personal beliefs and do the things that you think, but remember that those are the ones that had created it were of this order. And it's funny in the Bible, like Jesus talks about it, like he's basically broken out of the system. He's separated out, like, hey guys, it doesn't work like that. So like his teachings are correct, and then what happens is the Catholic Church marches in, and then they commandeered it and be like, well, it's like this, and we're going to control the whole thing. And I wonder, like, he's like, he's sitting on his cloud looking down and be like, that's not what I meant. I can't believe that they let this. I gave them the whole. This is messed up. This isn't right. So anyway, you want to look at the rest of the Olympics, it's like this one, it's many of them. I don't know how far back it goes, where they really started pushing it. But yeah, it's really heavy in all of the the programming, social programming. So anyway, more to come. I know I try not to I try to keep these like brief because I know that it mind blows a lot of people, because I include in a number of fringe elements that are interconnecting into the same thing, and how people aren't thinking broad enough, and how absolutely diabolical these rulers are. But again, it's like, to me, I'm like, bravo, you guys are of an order that has already figured out exactly every step that man is going to take, and they can, by probability, they know humans' weaknesses, they know it, and they play right. Everybody always plays right into it every single time. So that's why I'm like at the point where, like, hey, the same thing happened during COVID, and people love to believe that the rulers were looking out for the best in them. And it's like, I'm like, I can't, I just, it was shocking to experience it and to see how many went down that road. But just to know that there's ways that you can repair all of this from like a spiritual perspective, and basically discharge being duped, and it's like, it's okay. It happens to everybody. Um, and it's like, when it does happen, it's like, hey, game on, good job. You pulled one over on me because I didn't know the rules. Like I said, just like whenever you go into a court of law, it's no different. It's exactly the same. So anyway, more to come. Cheers.